Welcome to the darkness.
Woo! We're here.
Hey, yeah.
Good evening.
Hey, Pac-Man. Welcome.
What up, Packy?
Yeah. So Bertie and Jess are doing concert stuff tonight, and Tovar's out chasing cows. He's
Yeah,
got
Fun stuff.
so we don't know if he'll be on or not. Freaking
he's
cows.
either chasing cow or slinging bull, one of the two.
Yeah, one or the other, right? We won't
love
know
you,
when
Doc.
Bertie brings the barbecue meat. That's what
Oh,
We
yeah.
love you, Doc. Good night.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. What's our topic today, Max?
Our topic is towns that have went away. We have a lot of interesting towns and cities that have just vanished. And I think we've done a lot of interesting research in them, and I think you're going to be surprised to see where some of these towns are.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear because the ones you guys brought up are not ones that I'm familiar with. So these will be good.
Exactly.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, mine
Exactly.
are over like in England and a few places. But yeah, let's get down to this. Who
Nice.
wants first?
Max can go.
Okay. So I found a couple, and it's pretty interesting because when we talk about older civilizations, we tend to think of Europe. We tend to think of south of the border. We tend to think of those places. And we do know that some of one of the largest prehistoric cities was in Mexico, and it was pretty incredible. But found a town called Cahuca, and Cahuca is the largest prehistoric Native American city north of Mexico, which is interesting. And some of the stuff that they did was pretty cool. They were in close to Mississippi, and they were in near modern day St. Louis, Illinois, and they flourished from 1800 to 1400 AD. So
Wow.
if you think about it, those years from 800 to 1400 AD, which is Anno Domini, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is incredible. That's incredible. They have these huge earthen mounds, like monks' mounds back east, and these mounds are the exact same. The mounds were burial temples for some of the more richer people, from what I could gather.
Okay.
Their largest population was between 10 and 40,000 people, and that was right around right before it all ended up going away. They were very complex. They're planning the original name for reasons unknown. They couldn't find, so that's why they ended up going with the name Cahuca. The Cahuca was a tribe that was there. And some of the aspects, the size and scale. Now imagine this: in 1100 AD, it was larger than London, covering about 6 square miles with 120 of these mounds, like we talked about, and a very large population. The mounds are earthen structures that on top of them had temples. So these are huge burial grounds for, like I said, the more affluent people. They were very advanced in their planning with neighborhoods, plazas, and sophisticated construction. And they also, from what I understand, they've found a solar calendar observation area, observatory.
Really?
So think about how advanced we were back then, right? And it's almost like when these towns and these cities populations go away, we're relearning all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that stuff kind of interests me, especially when they're building in neighborhoods. Because I've never heard of that. Now I heard about it. I take that back. I heard about it like in Greece, in Rome, right? Where they actually had working sewers. They actually had towns. They had meeting areas, and we had that same thing in friggin' Arkansas. In Illinois, and it's very interesting. They were the Mississippian culture centered there. They were involved in extensive trade and exhibiting a complex social structures. So again, when they talk about a social structure, they had tiers of people, social structure, and it's pretty interesting. Let's see. Go ahead.
What was the population like? Did you mention that? Did they have any idea? I'm just curious. It's so fascinating to me that we can have a really thriving community just gone, and it goes quick.
Exactly. Well, they said the largest population was between 10,000 and 40,000 people.
That's big.
That's incredible. In 6 miles, that's like LA. That's like Utah. That's these people all live together. They work together.
Right.
I imagine that they had farmers, and I imagine that they had a school. I can and just the way that their social tiers were, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they're saying that let's take a step backwards. Mississippi, the social structure, archaeology, they had, despite no written records, archaeology reveals advanced engineering, art, and ritual practices. So again, the engineering aspect, that's the same stuff that we've talked about in Rome, in Greece, and these, it's incredible to me what that stuff, what they did, how they made things happen. Unfortunately, about 1250 AD is when the city started declining, and it was they're saying it was environmental stress. There was droughts in that plain. You either have a lot of water or you don't have a lot of water.
Yeah.
And they talked about, and that was one of the leaders for abandonment.
Yeah.
So you go from this very thriving, everybody's chill, everybody's, what's up, to people start going away.
Yeah.
And, my question is, where did they go after that? It didn't say where they were going. It just said,
I'm sorry, you cut off.
I'm sorry. So my question is, where did all these folks go? Did they just strike out on their own?
Right.
Did they just say, all right, deuces, we're out? I mean, clearly with that many freaking people, they had to turn out somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like Roanoke where people just went away. And that's what it seems like here, that these people
it's fascinating. Yeah, it's
Definitely.
fascinating. A friend of mine, she does. She's passed away now, but she did, and she was a really good scuba diver. So she would go to off Greece and Turkey every year and dive, and they were mapping out the sunken cities.
Ooh.
Oh wow!
So they'd take all the measurements and take as many photos as they could, and then come back up and then work on GIS software to map out all of these old towns and cities that have.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really fascinating because they had water levee systems that were built, and they determined that's what they were. When they finally got enough of the databases built, she'd go back every summer and spend 2 weeks with the same group of people. And yeah, it was pretty cool. So they determined after a few years of mapping all of these cities out that there were water conveyance systems everywhere that were built. It's pretty fascinating.
Hmm.
And that's incredible, because when you think about stuff like, how did that submerge? How did that end up
Right.
underwater?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, now when we're traveling, you know, we live up here in the desert, and you can actually kind of wander around and kick up shells in some of
Oh,
these
sure.
areas that, you know,
Well,
that are ocean, you know, from being from California, they're ocean based. I mean, you
right.
know, there's not a lot of those that are here, and you
Well,
can
look
see
at our
some high
mining
watermark.
out here. Phosphate
Yeah,
is,
definitely.
we have 2 beds of phosphate in our mining system. We have an upper ore zone and a lower ore zone, and they can be anywhere from 2 to like 12 feet apart. But phosphate is sea creatures that have died and sank. So there was 2 events that caused that
Wow.
much. You know, as they died, they all floated down, and then as they decomposed, they became phosphate. So there was 2 events to have an upper and a lower zone. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So this was all covered in water, and that's why we have the mining district here for that.
Exactly. And you know, that is so interesting to me, because looking out around here in, you know, southeast Idaho, friggin' Utah, you know, we have the Great Lake that's here. We have a place down in California that I cannot remember, Salton Sea, which was actually part of an ocean, and it ended up getting trapped. And anyway, there's a whole story that goes behind Salton Sea as well. But again, you know, you have these places that are still remnants of the ocean. And when,
Yep.
you know, still being in this huge desert that we live in, it's hard to believe sometimes that this was all friggin' ocean.
Right.
You know, and when we're out driving around, you know, you still see a lot of high water marks.
Yep.
You still see that, and it's just incredible.
Yeah.
You know, but
Well,
where did all that water go?
think about the flood that we had through Pocatello, because we have boulders the size of houses.
Mm-hmm.
And you see when the glacier retreated, it carved out the benches, the east bench and the west bench of Pocatello. So it's pretty interesting.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know?
Yeah, and you know, those and people don't realize how big those boulders are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you say it's the size of a house, or a small one is the size of a Volkswagen Bug.
Right. Yep.
That's a small one.
Yep.
You know, and people don't realize, all going underneath in Old Town, going underneath the underpass right there. There's a lot of, when they were digging to put footers in, and they were digging to put some communications in, they had to chip out a bunch of those big rocks to get stuff to go through. And it's incredible. It's incredible to me.
I think a lot of the towns that have disappeared, it's not, I mean, we always want to put a paranormal spin on stuff because it's fascinating, right? But I think most of it is environmental, but there still are those towns out there that have vanished, that you're like, what happened? Roanoke, for example, nobody knows.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows
Exactly.
what happened to those people. And you had, Mud Lover, what was the town that you had?
For tonight?
Yeah.
I have Cahaba, Alabama.
Really? An Alabama town. Okay.
Yeah.
What happened there?
What happened there was what is now 2,500 acres of overgrown remnants used to be the state capital of Alabama. It started off as a bustling river town in the center of Alabama's early government. Then a series of natural disasters and changes in politics. It just kind of went away, and people moved out. Let's see.
So the South, go ahead.
Okay, so it was once filled with the footsteps of politicians, planters like farmers, citizens,
Mhm.
and hundreds of soldiers that were jailed during the Civil War.
Mm.
Today it's an archaeological
An arc site. We all know those.
There we go. With graceful oaks that are draped with moss and crumbling brick ruins and streets that are overgrown with grass. Um, so long before it became a capital, the archaeologists uncovered evidence of a large Mississippian village dating back to 100 to 1550 AD. There were flat top mounds surrounded by walls and a moat. Is that moat?
Wow.
Moat?
Moat.
Evidence also showed thriving trade that connected the communities.
That's
Um,
interesting. I think
yeah,
I wonder if McKenna talked about this on our Wednesday night show a long time ago.
maybe it seems to be quite popular, but I never heard of it. And then at the end, we talked about an event with our ship show that
Mhm.
relates to the city. So I found that was interesting. So
What was the event?
the Sultana, the
The
steamboat.
Sultana.
Yeah. So the soldiers
Whoa.
that were in this town that were freed were on that ship, that
Oh my
steamboat.
God. Oh my God. And they died on that boat.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Wow, that's
crazy.
pretty wild.
That is a crazy
Yeah.
connection. If you guys haven't, we did it's like we don't have any free time, but when we did have some free time, we did a historical disaster, and that one, the Sultana, was what a story about the Mississippi. You need,
Right?
yeah, go
Yeah.
back and watch that show, guys. It was good.
Totally. Yeah.
Oh,
You know what's
Um,
funny is we talk about this is middle America,
yeah,
right? You know, this is middle America, and we think when we think middle America, we you know we don't think of you know this kind of stuff being established. You know that whole area. You know, you think, oh, it's just you know just like Little House on the Prairie or 1823 or any of that stuff that we think is like, oh, that's the way it was. But this kind of research shows that these were thriving metropolises, you know,
mhm.
in middle America, the flyover states that they call them now. I have another
yeah,
one that's
yeah.
in friggin' Kansas.
Oh,
It's just
you have a
incredible.
Kansas one? Yeah, I want to hear that
So
one.
yeah, so when Mudlover gets done with hers,
Oh, good.
yeah,
Okay. Let's see. I gotta find my spot here. So well, so the social scene peaked in that town in 1825, and they spent. And I was gonna look it up. They spent $17,000 when Marquis de Lafayette, a celebrated hero of the American French Revolutions, visited, and $17,000 was more than they spent when they built the Capitol. So I
Oh
was going
my
to
God.
convert it, and I never went back to look it up.
Oh, where's Dirty Birdie when we need him? He can
I
do
know.
that on the fly.
I know
never know
he'd
if
be
he's
do that right
driving.
off the top of his
It
head.
sounds impressive.
He'd be like,
Right?
he'd go.
Yeah, he'd be
That's like,
looking up at the sky, and then he'd go, I think that's $18,922 today.
yeah, and 17
exactly.
cents.
I love him so much.
Friggin' guy.
But so the low-lying rivers and the frequent flooding, or the low-lying rivers caused frequent flooding and outbreaks of yellow fever and malaria and cholera.
Cholera.
Flora
Yeah.
was the demise of this city. Not to mention the fact that the governor Bibb, who passed away in 1820, that was like his thing. He tried so hard to make this the state capital, a thriving city, and with his passing and all these devastating things happening, people just kind of moved to moved away. But some people wanted to fight. They stayed and they fought, and they ended up surviving through when cotton became a thing. So cotton brought this city back. So in the 1840s and 1850s, cotton was huge. Um, they grew cotton, and then they shipped it up and down the Mississippi, where the Sultana comes into play, transporting it back and forth. And by
Wow.
1860, the city was in Dallas County, and it was the richest in the state, and it boasted a whole 2,000 residents.
Wow.
Then the Civil War came, and the Confederate Army took over one of the large cotton warehouses and named it Castle Morgan. They used it for a prison for captured soldiers, and it was only housed for like 500 men, but they shoved like 3,000 in there, and of course with that comes disease.
Mm.
So in 1865, as the war was ending, another massive flood engulfed the town, and it destroyed homes, and it was devastating for the residents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. It's so a lot of that flyover stuff that you talked about, Mad Max, it floods incredibly bad,
Yes.
very frequently.
Yes.
And people keep coming back because that's where their roots are. But like, why would you keep rebuilding? But then again, we have people like on the cliffs of California in the south central coast. They keep rebuilding, and their houses slide off in the wintertime. And I grew up in the forest, and it keeps burning, and you keep rebuilding, and you just go where you know.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is the commonality in our species. I think that when we get to that point, we're going to show. We know that there's always going to be brush fires in Southern California. We know that there's going to be tornadoes in Oklahoma. We know that, but by God, we're going to go back and we're going to rebuild. We're going to show the tornado God that we're not skirt. The brush fires, we've all seen them just rip through, and those people will go back.
Yep.
And I'm just like, well, you know what? I
So
understand, but I don't think I would do it myself.
well, I'm leery. Like, I would love to go back to the Sierra Nevadas because I miss home so much, but the fire risk is so incredibly bad. I'm not sure I could ever. I don't know that I could do that anymore. Live with
Right.
them every season.
And the bad thing about it is, now they're saying that, like we talked about in California, you can't get insurance.
Right, you can. It's
And
called
if you
wraparound,
do-
and it's so expensive.
Right, and if you do get it, it's astronomical to
Yeah, my
pay
friends are
for
paying
it.
like $1,200 a month just for fire insurance. Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So my mother said that you think the flooding mostly, and what do you think caused the demise of the town?
It did, yeah. And then like I was gonna say that by the turn of the century, someone actually bought the land for $500, and by 1900 it was a ghost town.
Okay. Wow.
Apparently it's haunted. So paranormal enthusiasts go there for as a paranormal pilgrim site, where they hear voices and the footsteps and moans, and visitors have reported hearing children laughing in the woods. And it's actually closes down at 5. There's a historical place out there that runs the cemetery and the I guess memorial site and all that. So they close it down at 5 because they don't want people out there at night. But apparently for 2 days during the year, it's opened with limited admission, and you can go out there at night and do investigations and whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I think towns have memories, and land retains that energy and those memories. I mean,
Right.
yeah. So Max, what do you got?
So the next town that I have is called Etzona, ETZ as in zebra, ANOA, and it was another massive Native American city of the ancestral Wichita people, and it's located now in Arkansas City, Kansas.
Cool.
It flourished until about 1700, and there was 20,000 people that lived in this town. And the funny thing about this town, they lived in beehive-shaped homes.
Oh, I believe I've seen pictures of that.
Yeah, and it is pretty interesting. In fact, I had a picture, and I was going to send it to you, and I completely.
I'll look it up while you're talking.
Yeah. They known to the Spanish, it was a great settlement after a 1601 battle with the Oneida conquistadors. I didn't know that there were conquistadors that actually came up into Kansas, but apparently the Onates or Oneida came up there, and I imagine they came up the Mississippi River when they were going out and finding stuff.
Wow.
And the locals defended themselves. It was actually rediscovered by an archaeological digs, and they ended up finding a bunch of stuff. They found cannonballs and tools to confirm that there were the significance of major oh my gosh.
You too, huh?
Yeah, I got my tongue.
Agricultural.
Thank you. And trade before it was abandonment, likely due to European diseases. There you go. And it's funny because we have these places that are all pushed together, and like Mudlover said, there's diseases. You get all these people on top of each other. And I do know that some of the natives, that was one of the reasons that they got sick and some of their tribes ended up dying off because of these diseases that they had no antibodies against. And when the Europeans came in and they started living among them, well, a cold to you and me is just a cold.
Right.
But a cold to somebody that doesn't have those antibodies or those immunities, it'll wreak havoc, and it'll run like kennel cough through that stuff, and it'll kill people.
Yeah.
So at the confluence of the Walnut and Arkansas River in south central Kansas is where this place is. And it's near what they call Arkansas City right now. They were ancestors of a Wichita tribe known for farming, right? Beans, squash, maize, and bison hunting. And the population was about 20,000, possibly one of North America's largest settlements in the 1600s. And their houses were spanning miles. Again, Juan de Anote expedition encountered Edzona and its people witnessing a large battle between them, which is pretty interesting. The city and Leather Orange Plains, they vanished in 1700. Again, where did these folks go? Where did they go? Chances are they're saying that they died from diseases like smallpox brought by the Europeans.
Right.
So the Europeans came through there and they jacked a lot of people up. 2016, Wichita State University confirmed its location. They have found cannonballs in that general area that were linked to that 1601 battle. They found a bunch of tools for bison processing, because remember, not only were they farmers, they actually were hunters of bison. They found scrapers, knives, arrow points, mauls, pipes for water, right? They found evidence of fireplaces, fire pits, cornfields, and a picture of their very complex society. So again, we have done this on our earth for however many years. We'll build up and then we die. We build up and then we die. And I think that's part of the earth's cleansing. That's my personal thought.
Yeah.
The
very
earth
well
comes,
could be.
Yeah.
So that's what I have. I'm going to switch over to my other machine. So you guys got the ball.
Okay. So, I decided to go ahead and do one of my favorite places. It's not a complete, I've got several that I can do, but this one's one of my the favorite is Bodie Ghost Town. Now, yeah, and this is an example of why towns disappeared. It is what they call in a state of arrested decay, and it's in kind of north central California on the backside of Mammoth, and it's at like 8,000 feet. It is now a state historic park, and they've done a really, really good job in preserving those buildings. And when people left this place, they left everything. They left books in the school on the desks. They left food in the general store. They left plates on their table. It's like they just got up and left. But there were a series of events that caused this, but it doesn't explain why they wouldn't pack everything. They left, like, funeral hearse is there, the carriage, the old funeral hearse carriage. Carriages everywhere, wagons, they left everything. And so what the history is that the town started about, this is Bodie, Max, it began in summer of 1859. So remember, the gold rush started basically 1848 in Coloma, California. Started bringing people into California. And so they were looking all around Eastern Sierras too, because you have Virginia City, you have all of these mining districts, and they were kind of going down that the mountains, the Sierra Nevadas, and they hit Bodie, and they found a lot of gold and silver down in that area. And so they felt really confident that they were going to strike it rich. And at one time in this town, there were over 10,000 people. About 1876, they only had a few dozen residents, but by 1880, they blew up just in a few years there to 10,000 people. And there was a really, they said it's a really diverse community. They had a broad spectrum of people, and of course, a lot of miners. They had a couple of things that were really unique about Bodie I found really interesting was they had really well kept homes. They had a Chinatown. They had a red light district. They had, I think at one time, 2 churches, 2 newspapers, a telegraph station, a post office, 22 operating mines, and a lot of the stamp mills. And if you don't know what stamp mills are, they are big pistons that are driven that crush the ore. So when they're coming out, sometimes the gold is locked up in a rock strata, and they crush it because the gold is not going to pulverize. It's just going to crush.
Wow.
And the rock will pulverize. And these mills, they have those all over Northern California where I grew up. And these stamp mills, they're just incredibly loud. I can't even imagine how many stamp mills and the noise of this place.
Yeah.
They had motels, general stores, mercantile, stables, doctors, pharmacists, union halls, schools, breweries, and several dozen saloons, of course. It was at one time, it was the 6th or 7th largest city in California.
Wow.
So
that's
now,
wild.
have you guys ever been to Bodie? Have you ever been up there?
Yes.
Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it?
It is.
You walk through,
it really is.
You look in the windows, and you're like, they left everything.
Yeah.
And
Well,
there's
the funny thing about Bodie is there's signs going into Bodie, and it says, "Do not take anything. Do not pick anything up.
Yep.
Do not take anything like a nail." And people do that, and the ghost of Bodhi follows them home. And
Well,
people
yeah,
don't believe that.
the state park said that says every day they get boxes in mail of trinkets that people have taken and they return them because it's bad luck. Like if you take stuff from Bodhi, you get bad luck. And I keep thinking I must have taken something a long, long time ago. I've been up there so much, and I was always a rock hound. One of the things cool about Bodhi is that they installed the very first long distance electrical transmission network. They designed it and built it, and the people who bought into it, the investors, were really nervous because it was never been done before. But once they brought electricity into the town and lit the town up, everybody was thrilled. But as everything goes in these old West towns, fires. So there was a kitchen fire in 1892, and it destroyed much of the west end of Main Street. Everything was rebuilt. And then in 1932, most of the town burned down from a kid playing with matches.
Oh, those kids.
So those damn kids.
Wait. There was a kid playing with
It wasn't
fire?
me.
Yeah.
It was not me. I was in Arizona.
Yeah. So in 1915, most of the mining ended, but when people left, that's like we've said, what was so fascinating, and nobody can seem to understand. I mean, they fled because of the fire, sure, and they probably never came back to get their stuff. They finally said, "We're out, we're leaving." But the people who remained there, who didn't lose everything, they didn't go scavenge. They didn't take everything. They just left. Like everybody just got up and out. They just left. And it is a fascinating place, the feel that you get there. Yeah. Yeah, so I have always loved Bodhi. It's one of my favoriteest places to go.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of other, let's see. Okay. Urkhammer, Iowa. Urkhammer. It was it's a really bizarre account of what they call a vanishing town. It was in rather good shape and about as normal as any other like mid-American town could be for a flyover state, right? It was doing well. It was thriving until 1928. There were some aerial photographs that showed the town to be empty, completely empty. And when the photographs were when the film was developed and the people started, whatever agency was doing the flyovers and doing these photographs, they couldn't figure out why a perfectly fine town would be completely abandoned. They said there was absolutely no one living there. The fields looked overgrown and unattended. And then things took a turn for the weird when there was a report from a tourist who was passing through it, who stopped at the gas station to fill his tank. And he learned he'd been ripped off because there was no gasoline there. So I don't know if there was somebody there that took his money, or I don't know how he considered it was ripped off. If the town was abandoned, it doesn't seem to me that there would be anybody there to take his money. He left the town, and then he decided to turn around and go back. He was really pissed, but he never could reach the town. Like the town was always he could never get back. It was like this. Yeah. So this was written about, and it said even when he ran out of gas, when he walked towards the town, he could never get there.
It's like Twilight Zone.
Yeah, it's weird stuff. And so I don't get that one. That one was listed, and I don't know. I mean, was this? I don't know.
There's a lot of stories.
Crazy.
There's a lot of stories that start like that. There's a lot of stories where somebody is traveling and they get lost, and they came into some little store or some little gas station, and they get gas, and or or they'll go to some restaurant because they're hungry, and come to find out when they go to find that place back on their maps, it's not there.
It's not there.
Or
Yeah.
some of those places have been closed forever.
Yeah.
Now, I know that some of those are stories, but I can't imagine that, I mean, that's not that far-fetched, because look at some of the areas we have around here.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some weirdness. What was the name of the one that you did, Mud Lover?
Today?
The town? Yeah, that town.
Cahawba, Cahawba.
Kahawla. Okay, whatever. So,
Yeah.
there's a town in Ashley, Kansas. This one was really interesting because it was a little farming community of about 700 people. And according to the USGS, on August 16th, 1952, the area was rocked by a massive earthquake of 7.9. That's big, guys. That's really big.
Pretty gnarly.
Considering that Ashley was pretty remote, it really didn't make the news. It wasn't on a big news cycle. We didn't have the 24-hour news back then. So when investigators came in, though, they found it really odd that there wasn't anyone there. No one was in the town. They thought it was a little bit ominous. They said as they approached the town, there was smoking and a blazing fissure in the ground that was on fire. Now that sounds like a coal seam to me, because coal seam fires really spring up.
No.
It was about 1,000 yards in length and 500 yards in width. That's a big seam to pop up.
That's pretty.
That's
pretty. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But as for the town itself, and this didn't look abandoned. It just was abandoned. It wasn't like it had been derelict for 20 years. It's like everybody was missing. And they said they did a 12-day intensive search of the town. They couldn't find a man, a woman, a child, a pet. Nobody alive, nothing dead. They couldn't find anything. It was like they vanished.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that one was really interesting. It said the aftershock of the earthquake, the aftershocks allegedly rocked the region for so many days during the search that they finally abandoned the search because things were becoming unstable. I mean, you shake a building enough, it's going to come down.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then they said further investigation supposedly turned up a variety of strange phenomena that had plagued this area before everyone had disappeared. Allegedly, on August 8th, there was a report. So this was before the earthquake. They were digging through some records and said, well, before the earthquake, on August 8th, there was a report from a local named Gabriel Jonathan, who claimed that he had seen a small black opening in the sky. Portal?
Wow. Minna?
Small black opening in the sky. Not long after that, police were bombarded with calls reporting the exact same thing. So he reported it, and then everybody was seeing it in the town. The following morning, a police officer from the nearby town of Hayes by the name of Alan Mace was sent to investigate. He radioed in and claimed he'd been headed down the road towards Ashley, but somehow found himself in the back of the town of Hayes. So he's driving like that guy. And the other, he could never get to the town. He kept finding himself back at the other town. What the hell is going on? He said he'd never turned around. He never turned his vehicle around. He's going north to this town, and he's back south. And he's like, what the heck? So he said other officers were sent in to see what was going on, and apparently they experienced the same strange phenomenon. And then things got even stranger when reports kept coming in that weird atmospheric anomalies were happening. There were people who were missing without a trace, like randomly, poof, 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 like being plucked out of town. So
wow.
all the people still there. They're like, all of a sudden you're having breakfast with Linda and you turn around, Linda's not there. Like that kind of weird stuff.
Wow.
And then there were other reports that the people who were remaining before the earthquake were seeing the dead, and they were talking with them. They were holding conversations because they were so alive to them. Like they were all of a sudden these incredible mediums. And police reported about 100 similar calls coming in after it was claimed that all of the children in the town had spontaneously vanished in the middle of the night on August 12th, 1952. And then I know, this just gets weirder and weirder and weirder. Is like this a movie script? I kept reading this going, really a movie script? Because this is craziness, right?
Seriously.
On the evening of August 13th, 1952, a caller named Scott Luntz claimed that there was a fire in the distance. He said he could see the bright red glow, and it seemed to be really tall. Like in the distance, fires look this big, you know? Mm-hmm. He said it was massive. And he said there were numerous calls become flooding into the police department, claiming from all these other people they were seeing this enormous fire. And there were no similar reports from any other community. So just this little town of Ashley was seeing this enormous fire. Nobody else could see it. It was that big on the horizon that you think all of the other little towns around could see this fire.
Definitely.
Nobody else could see it. And then on August 14th, 1952, Benjamin Endicott contacted police in an utter panic to say that there was a vast fire in the sky and it had turned night into day. And then that was just 2 days before the earthquake. Yeah. And then there's a transcription of a call into the police department by this Miss April Foster. And I can read it to you. It says, let's see. And it was after this call. Oh, do I have the actual transcription? It was after this call that the earthquake. Oh, yeah. The transcription was in German. So she called in German. And so, yeah, it was right after her call that the earthquake happened. And then poof, everybody's gone. So nobody seems to know if this is a real story or not. Nobody seems to know if this was just somebody's imagination. There's a lot of detail in it, but it could be a really clever writer. We don't know. And that's the thing. Like, was Roanoke real? Were these towns real?
Yeah.
And that's here. You know, like I said, that's not Europe.
Right.
That's not wherever. That's, and I know that Roanoke was in Virginia, or off the coast of Virginia, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So these are flyover friggin' states. That would be like driving through Fillmore, Utah one day, and then the next day Fillmore's gone.
Fillmore's gone.
You know, and it amazes me, that kind of stuff. But, you know, they talk about that stuff. My mom told me years ago, there was an earthquake somewhere that opened a fissure, and then people were walking around it, and it closed it that fast. And these people were, they saw parts of their bodies. They might see somebody sticking out of the ground or whatever. And I can't remember because I didn't listen. I was not a good listener. But that kind of stuff is interesting. There was a movie, I don't know, about 10 years ago called Cowboys and Aliens.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so campy. Did you, Audrey? Because I cannot remember. Put in the chat where you read that story at, please. But this show, Cowboys and Aliens, was so campy. But if you think about it, what do you think that those people were thinking?
I know.
Freaking 1800s, you know, and you look up and you'll see something in the sky that you have no idea what it is, and it's 1812. It's
Mhm.
1805.
Yeah.
You know, and it just, thank you, Audrey. I appreciate that. It's interesting, that kind of stuff, how they perceive now when we talk about events like that. Oh, it's an event and it's that, or oh, Vernal, Utah, or Clearfield, Utah, or whatever, where they see a lot of activity like that. And it's a little bit more something that I don't want to use the word embrace, but I think that we're so used to hearing and seeing stuff about that. But in 1800s and that kind of stuff, even in 1950s and that kind of stuff is happening. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's why I don't know. Was that real? I don't know. I mean, you don't have, I guess if we could figure out where actually Kansas is or was, we could Google Earth it and then see if there are structures left, or maybe it's incorporated into a new town now. I don't know. Some of these things I don't know. You've got to kind of take these things with a grain of salt. Did you have another one, Mud Lover?
I do. I did a little bit on El Dorado.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Okay. El Dorado was originally referred to as a person, but through storytelling, it became a city. The people of Muisca had a tradition where their king would give offerings to Lake Guadavida, and these offerings were the king would cover himself in gold, and he would have jewels with him, and he would jump in this lake. So neighboring tribes learned of this practice, and hence began the storytelling. In 1537, Gonzalo de Quesada learned of this, and he went to the city, and he conquered and looted the city. He dredged the lake, but only found a little bit of gold. And refusing to accept that was all there was, he searched and searched for decades and found nothing more. For the next 2 centuries, thousands of men searched South America in search of El Dorado, often a lot of them dying while in the process. Seekers did find gold here and there, but really nothing substantial. The problem was it was doomed from the start because where this location was kept changing. So there was just failure after failure after failure. They said the one good thing that came out of this legend was that the interior of South America was explored and mapped.
It's like looking for the lost Dutchman mine, right? Everybody's out there exploring everything.
Exactly. In the superstitions, yeah.
Yeah.
But in 1969, they did discover a Muisca raft in a cave. And it actually was built of gold, and it's in a museum right now in Bogota.
Wow.
People often wonder where did this gold go? So in 1545, these people used a bucket chain of laborers and lowered into the water and found several thousand pesos of gold. In 1912, a British company actually dredged the lake only to find the muddy bottom baked solid.
Wow.
From the sun.
So the gold is gone. The gold is gone.
Well, you know, it's funny.
Yeah.
I think that if I found a canoe that was made out of gold, I think I'd turn half of it in.
That's half of the canoe.
That's just me. Look, I found this half a canoe.
I have no idea where it would. I don't know where the rest is. Oh, that new Ford F-350 sitting out there, that dually. I
don't know.
That old thing.
Oh, That's a pretty clean cut. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know,
Yeah.
man. There's natural causes. It must have been a laser or something. I don't know. What else you got there, Mudlover? Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. I've got a story out of Brazil. It's
All right.
a settlement called. I was laughing at you because of your pronunciations. Now I'm going to do it. Or Verde, Hoer. I don't know how to say that. Where's David? We need Doc.
Where's Tovar?
Where's Tovar? On February 5th, 1923, a group of visitors to a tiny little town, they called it a hamlet of 600 people, were amazed to discover that there was not a soul to be found anywhere in town. The homes and buildings were abandoned, personal belongings and food left behind as is. This kind of sounds like Bodhi. Authorities launched an investigation, could find no sign of where any of the inhabitants had gone. And there was a message scrawled on the blackboard of I guess, a school that read, "There is no salvation." They don't know what happened to the 600 residents. There's a notion that maybe people were forced to evacuate because there were a lot of attacks from like roving guerrillas, not whoop, whoop, guerrillas, guerrillas like soldiers. And drug dealers. Although the other gorillas would be a whole lot funner to watch, wouldn't it? Like tearing the crap
just
out
throw
of
a banana.
Yeah. Here you go. Anyway, either roving gorillas or drug dealers to be, and then there was some people who believed that the inhabitants were abducted by aliens. So there's no evidence whatsoever of what happened to these people. And let's see. Yeah, absolutely none. So apparently they left. More than likely it was caused by, I would think, war. They got either whatever side was getting too close to them and there was too much fighting and they like bailed out. But again, they left everything. So that means to me that they're in fear for their life. You're in fear for your life when you leave your belongings,
Yeah.
Forest fire, gorillas throwing bananas, something causes you to leave your home. You know what I'm saying? There's just I don't know. It's pretty interesting. There's okay, I don't know if this is a true story either. I found this one and it's set in, where is it set in? It's set in, I think it was Canada. If I can find it now. Where did I put it? It was about a trapper who had dealt with a little community. Where did it go? 1930, a Canadian fur trapper named Joe LaBelle. He was traveling near Anajukuni Lake in the Northwest Territory of Canada, which is part of the Nunavut territory. The names, guys.
Just own it. Own it.
None of it.
No one knows any different.
Nobody knows. So apparently, he was aware that this was an Inuit settlement area, and he was looking for lodging. He found it completely deserted. So trappers back there, and they know where to go get lodging. They know where to sell their goods. Okay. He found meals had been started and left abandoned, empty huts stocked with food and personal possessions. A recent fire was left smoldering, discarded. So that means very recent, a fire's not going to stay. Yeah. A discarded repair of a seal skin had yet to be completed. And people like, the Inuits and people who they value those skins, they don't leave stuff like that behind.
Yeah. True.
My old dog always has to pee right in the middle of the show. There were no tracks. And there was also something that really disturbed him was the absence of dogs because they're sled dogs. Okay. He looked for the dogs. They seemed to be absent. As he kept looking further, every one of them had starved to death in the woods.
Oh. Hmm.
You don't do that. I mean, when you live by sled dogs, you care for your dogs. They're not the
Yeah.
easiest dogs to manage, but you live for, those dogs are your lifeline.
Yeah.
He kept hiking, and there was a telegraph office that was located several miles further from that Inuit settlement. And he contacted, according to the story, the RCMP to launch an official investigation. They sent up a trapper named Armand Laurent and his two sons, and they saw a cylindrical object in the sky when they went out for their search. And then they found the frozen bodies of the villagers' dogs, and they found every grave in the burial ground had been opened and emptied, and the headstones were neatly stacked in piles on either side of the graves. And they concluded that all of the people were missing for about 8 weeks prior to LaBelle's arrival, but nobody ever came up with an answer. And it's really fascinating. My next door neighbors are Inuit, and I'm going to ask them if they know about the story.
Yeah.
It just dawned on me. I'm like, wait a minute. I know a couple of people who are Inuit, and I'm going to talk to them about this, and I will let you guys know if they've heard about this or if this was a big yarn. Yeah.
See, I've heard that story before.
Have you?
I've heard that story before, and it's not. And you're right. When you live by your dogs, you take care of your dogs. The Inuit people had figured out. I mean, that's how they live their life.
Right.
They were nomadic to an extent, but once they found an area, they would set up and they would stay there long term. And that kind of, that kind of tells a story about apparently the polar bears that were up there, they'd find them, and they used to like to eat, leeks. And I guess only once or twice a year, leeks would grow wild there. Leeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they would grow wild there. And that was what those polar bears loved. So what the Inuit people would do is they would hunt these polar bears. So they would go out on the ice and they'd cut a hole out of the ice. And what they do is they'd take these leeks and they would throw them in this ice hole. And when a bear reached over to take a leak, they'd kick him in the ice hole.
Mud Lover's face said it all when she's like, oh God, here it comes. Nice one, Mad Max. Great way to end the show. And Audrey said everything she's found says the story was not real. I wonder if any of these stories are real. I mean,
thanks,
every
Audrey.
history book talks about Roanoke. And it was real.
Yeah.
Roanoke was real.
Right.
Every history book talks about it, but nobody knows understands what happened. So I don't know. All of these could be fake. Who knows? But they're fascinating stories. They're great imagination if they're fake.
Definitely.
Okay, guys. I got to go and let an old dog out before I have an accident in the house.
Oh, no.
He has the accident. I'm fine, but he might.
Yeah.
So thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Bye.
And we'll see you next week.
Have a great night. We'll see you guys. Be safe.
Bye.
Bye.